What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live. Here on a Thursday, we will preview the Blazers vs. Lakers that is coming up tomorrow. We'll see if the Blazers can get one win on this 3-game road trip. We'll see if they can turn things around against their arch nemesis, the Los Angeles Lakers. And we also got picks against the spread. So a pretty normal show for today. We'll also take a few questions at the end, like we generally do on Blazers Uprise Live. So hope you guys are having a good day. Hope everyone's doing well. And we're just going to jump into picks against the spread. I see Reese. I see Westbrook. Hopefully Trevin is in here. Let's just jump straight into things. Let's look at our records updated. Here we also have the last records is basically our records on Monday. Chat continues to kill it. They went 5-2 on Monday, moved to 65-45. They are 9-7 on their double downs. I passed Eric. Me and Eric have been neck and neck, passing each other.
Flip flop.
Often, yeah. I would like to create some separation there, but I am now 58-52. Eric's 57-53. I had a better Monday than he did. He went 2-5. We are both 8-8 on our double downs. Would like to have a better record on double downs than that. Double downs make a huge difference. Westbrook had a good Monday. He gained 3 games on Eric. He went 5-2. He moves to 49-61, still trying to kind of climb his way into that upper echelon. He moves to 6-10 on his double downs, as well as Trevin, who went 3-4 on Monday, 46-64 for him. And Reese, Eric. Remember what he said last Monday? He said he was doing his research.
And he's going to go 7-0.
He said he was doing his research and he was ready this time. And he went 2-5. The only game he won was actually his double down. I don't remember what his double down pick was, but he was basically 1-5 on picking games. So hopefully Reese comes with a different strategy today. Hopefully he gets barrel luck, because I feel bad for him sitting there in the cellar. I don't know. It would be interesting to do like our records over the last, month or so, because I don't think we've gained too much distance on Reese and Trevin. They just had a very, very bad start over the first 30 games, and they're trying to make that up right now. So, do we have Trevin in here? Hopefully, if Trevin, you're in here, just pick the next game. If not, we'll have to figure that one out. Let's start with Philadelphia versus Dallas. Whoa, why is that Chicago versus Houston? I guess I forgot to change that. Here we go. Look how quick that adjustment is. You got Philadelphia and Dallas. Gave Dallas the silver since they both have the same type of blue. Philadelphia is a 5-point favorite at home. This game is tipping off in about 20 minutes at 4 p.m., basically 4:10. Dallas has been playing better lately. They have finally clawed their way back to 500. Philadelphia is at 21-11. While the picks are made, I'm going to pull up the stream on my phone so I can read the chat. Westbrook is going with Philly. I despite chat doing well, I will not let them influence my picks, by the way, because I have to catch them. The only way I'm going to catch them is if I pick games right that they don't. So I'm not going to start copying them. I'm not too far behind. I'm 7 games behind. They've gained some ground here, but I'm not going to let chat influence my picks. Trevin is going Sixers. This is maybe the toughest spread of the day for me, because Dallas has been playing better. They kind of are like, they don't have somebody to deal with Embiid inside, but defensively they're a lot like the Blazers. They run a lot of drop scheme. We're a good matchup for the Sixers defensively, because they don't really exploit drop scheme all that well. Reese says Porzingis is out, which is good for the Mavericks. How is that good for the Mavericks? Why are people acting like Porzingis is playing so bad this year? I looked at him statistically. He looks fine. I don't get it. Chat has 4 more votes, by the way, so fill it up. Eric, you got a pick yet? You're still thinking about this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Mavericks in this one.
I am also going to take the Mavericks in this one. Actually, gut feeling just yelled at me. I'm taking the Sixers. My gut just roared. My gut said, hell no. Reese is taking the Mavs. Reese will roll with you. I just abandoned ship 5 seconds after jumping on it. Chat is going Philly. So you got Eric and Reese going with the Mavericks. Chat is going Philly. I honestly think this was the hardest game to pick out of the bunch. But you got 4 for Philly, 2 for Dallas. We'll see if Porzingis being out helps him, Reese. We'll see if that logic, them missing a good player is good, and that's some twisted logic, but I mean, Reese is trying whatever he can try right now. So let's move on to the next. Oh, I gotta get this off the screen. That's weird. All right. Let's move on to the next game. Game number 2, you got Brooklyn versus Orlando. Brooklyn at 21-12, Orlando at 13-19. Brooklyn is an 8.5-point favorite. What is the injury situations for this one, Reese? I know Orlando's missing, obviously, Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz out for the season. They still should be missing Aaron Gordon. I don't know what the status is on the big 3. Either way, I'm not sure it's going to affect my pick, though.
Durant will not play. I think Kyrie and Harden are both good to go, though.
Tough one.
I'm gonna take the Nets.
All right. I'm tempted to take the Magic. I don't know why, but I'm tempted to. Westbrook's going with the Nets.
Reese is taking the Magic. Trevin's taking the Nets.
Yeah, I don't feel like taking the Magic anymore. Oh my goodness. So Trevin's Nets. Do it. Take the 14-1 for the Nets. Screw it. I'll take the Magic. I'll take the Magic. I bailed on the Mavericks pick. I'll take the Magic in this one with the points. Me and Reese will. Everybody else is going with the Nets on this one. Let's move on to game number 3. You got the Knicks versus the Kings. The Knicks are a 1-point favorite. Let me know the injury situation, chat, or Reese preferably. It's going to be hard to beat that for the double down for chat. Have we had a 15-0 pick for chat this year, Eric?
I think we did, yeah. I can't remember, but...
Yeah, and this one I'm going with the Knicks. I don't know if they're missing somebody, but felt like the spread was a little bit low there. Westbrook's going Knicks. Trevin's going Knicks. Reese is going Knicks. You're going Knicks?
I'm going Knicks as well. Sacramento is 2-8 in their last 10 games, and those 2 wins were 8 games ago because they have lost 8 straight.
Yep. Eric Olson destroyed the dreams of the 15-0 for chat. But we might have a 14-1, and then we'll have to have the tiebreaker at the end. Reese Jinx is 15-0. Oh, you guys shouldn't have brought up the 15-0. Reese said 15-0, and I see 3 Kings right after that. But it looks like chat's going Knicks. Just doesn't seem like it'll be their double down. 10-5 Knicks. You got a lot of Kings votes at the end there. I don't know if they were trolls or, if they were people wanting to vote for the Kings. But there you go. Clean slate. New York Knicks. I will spoil it. This is likely to be my double down. Let's move on to game number 4. You don't have to write that down yet. We'll do it at the end. Grizzlies versus Clippers. Clippers have been playing good basketball. They're at 23-10. Grizzlies are at 13-14. The Clippers are 8-point favorites. I'm going to go, unless Kawhi or PG is out, assuming they're both playing. Reese, if you can double check that. Assuming they're both playing, I'm going to go with the Clippers. Reese going with the Clippers as well. Trevin going with the Grizzlies. Chat going 12-3 Clippers.
I'm just checking the status of.
I'm waiting on.
Paul George does not have an injury designation.
That's a first.
And neither does Kawhi, so.
That's a first. Westbrook says he'll take the points, so you're taking the Grizzlies. I don't want to mess this up for you, bruh.
Trevin and Westbrook.
Westbrook out here making me think for a second or two. I don't like it.
I'm going to take the Clippers, too.
Alright, so Westbrook and Trevin going with the Grizzlies. Everyone else going with the Clippers. That is what we got for game number 4 out of 6. We'll see if we get a split vote at some point today. But Westbrook and Trevin are alone here with the Grizz. Let's move on to game number 5. You got Denver versus Washington. Very interesting game. Denver is a 7.5-point favorite. I know they had guys out against the Blazers. I assume still probably banged up. I don't know what the status is on their guys, but let me see here. I'm gonna go with the Wizards. The Wizards have been playing better.
Yeah, I'm also gonna take the Wizards. They've been playing good.
Westbrook's going Wizards.
Reese and Trevin also said Wizards.
Oh, wow. Let's see if chat will be out alone on an island for once.
Doesn't look like it based on...
Yeah, let's look at the Wizards.
Quick count.
Might not have much standing separation today. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it's definitely Wizards. So I don't know what the count is on that, but I saw a few Nuggets in there, so it's not going to be their double down. It's looking like the Nets are likely to be their double down. But clean sweep for the Wizards. Let's move on to the 6th and final game. You got Milwaukee versus the Pelicans. Milwaukee is an 8-point favorite. A lot of 8-point spreads today.
Trevin's going Bucks.
I'm going to take the Pelicans.
I'm going to take the Bucks.
All right.
Pelicans have had a lot of success with Zion getting mixed into the pick and rolls, but I think the Bucks have the personnel to slow that down.
Reese going Pels. Just waiting on chat. Zion has a W in his name. Yep, that's why I picked the Pels, man. Only reason. So Drew is doubtful / I don't know. Max says he's out. Reese says he's doubtful. It looks like Drew isn't going to play. This is basically just going to come down to me. It's going to come down to Giannis and Middleton versus Ingram and Zion. Now that's what this game comes down to. Because outside of that, I think New Orleans might have a little better depth. Obviously, Middleton and Giannis are better than Zion and Ingram. I think New Orleans has a little better depth, but their pieces don't necessarily mesh all that well. So, intriguing game, intriguing spread. I am going with the Pelicans. Let's move on to the double downs, I can go through the picks one more time for Mods and Eric to maybe look over things once more before they make their double down picks. Just quickly scroll through here.
So
Trevin
Chats will be the
going
Nets.
Yep, Trevin's is going to be the Knicks. Alright, so chat is the Nets. Let me put that in. Sorry about all the clicking. I just have to load these in. I'm going with the Knicks as well as Trevin.
I'm going to go with the Wizards as my double down.
Alright.
Reese is going Knicks as well.
Just waiting on Westbrook's double down. Westbrook's also doubling down on the Knicks, so we got 4 people doubling down on the Knicks. I think that's a pretty safe double down pick. I also like the Wizards in this one as a double down pick, considering how well they've been playing, and Denver has some guys out and are 7.5 point favorites. The Nets, I'm not. That's actually my least favorite double down pick, believe it or not. I got a feeling it's going to be a single digit game. That spread's 8.5 against the Magic. I don't know. I got a gut feeling it's going to be a single digit game. So I got a couple of picks where I just didn't think and just went with my gut that I normally wouldn't make. Normally I probably just pick Brooklyn here, but gut feeling told me Magic. Where's the other one?
You switched off the Mavs at the last second.
Yeah, I switched off the Mavs. We'll see if that works out for me or not. But, yep, that is picks against the spread. Good luck to everyone, especially the mods. Chat doesn't really need any luck at the moment, and I'm not wishing good luck to chat. Let's preview this Lakers game. All right, let's just jump into it. We're not wasting any time with this. So you got the Lakers tomorrow. You got the Blazers on a 3-game losing streak, right? They're playing amazing. They're 18-13. Nah, they're not playing amazing basketball right now. They go against a Lakers team, though, that is also not playing amazing basketball right now. They are also struggling without Anthony Davis. I believe they're without Dennis Schroeder for tonight's game as well. So you're looking at a team that consists of LeBron and then
Schroeder's
Montrezl
play,
Harrell.
actually.
Is he? I thought he was out 3 games.
They announced last night that it looked like he was going to be back for Friday.
Oh, well, I don't know. That's a guy who, he hasn't played that well for them this year. But without AD, that's a guy they need. With AD, I don't really like him on the roster. But they need a chance at getting more production, and he can have occasionally really solid offensive performances, and they kind of need that right now. So you got Dennis Schroeder, LeBron James, Montrezl Harrell. What do you think is the key for the Blazers to turning this around in terms of how they match up against the Lakers? Because I know, what we always say is move the ball, get good shots, don't make defensive mistakes, switch up the scheme if you need to, that type of stuff. But is there a key to this game specifically when it comes to defending the Lakers? Or maybe, going against their defense? Is there something with the matchup itself?
Defensively, I think obviously you want to try to do as well as we did on LeBron last time we played him. So that probably means Derrick Jones starting on him. The problem is when you have Robert Covington and they primarily run pick and roll with AD and LeBron, then you can just switch those 2 guys, and that worked out really well for us in the last game. When they don't have AD, it's kind of a question mark who the screener will be for LeBron, so they'll probably try to attack more like the Cantors and the Dames. Whoever they end up guarding will be the screeners for LeBron instead. So it's kind of counterintuitive to think that the defense is actually harder without Anthony Davis, but it kind of comes down to simplicity sometimes, where we have two good guys to guard those two guys, but it's a lot more unpredictable what they're going to do without them. And they haven't been playing well, so they're definitely going to be working on some things. But yeah, so I think you just got to try your best to have those two in particular on whoever their worst offensive players are, so you don't have to worry about sagging off them or switching or whatever.
Well, I got a couple of points that I want to make. First off, when it comes to defending LeBron's pick and roll, right, he was on fire to start the season from three. Let me pull up his splits here for the season. Sorry, my browser isn't like wide enough. Let me try and... He is currently shooting... Oh, wait, no, it was wide enough. He is currently shooting... Jeez. This page is hard. He's shooting 24% in the month of February from three. LeBron is. He shot 36% in 5 games in December. He was shooting 43% in January. During February, he's shooting 24%. So during our first matchup, he was shooting well enough that you had to kind of go over screens. With how bad he's struggling from three, instead of being forced to go over screens and then, having to switch, I think you could potentially get away with going under screens, right? He's shooting that badly, that would be my game plan. Just go under screens on him. If he starts hitting, obviously you have to adjust and you have to have a backup plan, but I think the easiest way to deal with him is just to go under screens because he's not shooting the three ball well. And that way you can contain his dribble penetration, hopefully limit the amount of possessions where he's breaking down the defense and creating opportunities for others or, opportunities for himself to finish at the rim. Those are the things you don't want when he's shooting this bad. You want him shooting threes at 24%. So you can start off this game being willing to give those up. Do I think the Blazers will do that? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be shocked if they are chasing him over screens. But the dude is shooting so bad right now that I would go under screens. He's still shooting 52% from the field. He's still finishing inside. He's still giving you... Geez, I can't do the math on this. He's still giving you over 25 points a game right now. But yeah, so you might just need to go under them because you'll have Markieff Morris and Marc Gasol starting, most likely. That's who they started last game. They started Talen Horton-Tucker, KCP, LeBron, Markieff Morris, and Marc Gasol. The only change, I assume, will be Dennis Schroeder starting in place of Horton-Tucker. So you're going to have Gasol and Markieff Morris as the front court guys. I mean, I don't really care who matches up against who. Kanter and Rocco and against Morris and Gasol, you probably put Kanter on Gasol just because he's bigger, but Gasol pretty much just camps at the 3-point line anyway. So the last thing you want with kind of a stretch big like Gasol is to allow LeBron to get into the lane when you don't have much size there. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think you just go under screens. You make him beat you from the perimeter.
And for the record, this last 3 games, LA is shooting 29.5% as a team from three. Mm-hmm. So not good.
Last night, because they played the Jazz last night. They lost 114-89. Yep. They shot 24% from three, 8 for 33. They shot 65% from the free throw line, 13 for 20. They had 14 turnovers. They shot 40% even from the field, 34 for 85. I mean, I would love for the Blazers to, hold them to those numbers. It's not going to happen. That's why the Jazz are so good. But, I mean, the key with this team, if LeBron's not making threes, I could see the Blazers having a good defensive game because they're not it's not like a situation where you're going into Phoenix playing against CP3 and Devin Booker and running drop scheme. Mm-hmm. It's if you just go under screens and LeBron can't beat you from the 3-point line, it's much easier to defend this team.
Yeah, well, if you take out the Washington game, which they scored 124 points, we know Washington's defense.
That game was
bad.
An OT.
Yeah,
by the way.
But the 4 games ago, Brooklyn, they only scored 98 points. We know how bad Brooklyn's defense is. Miami, they only scored 94, and then Utah, they only scored 89. So they're struggling to even score 100 in some of these games. outside of the Washington game. So
Yep, they had 115 at the end of regulation against Washington, which is not a good defense whatsoever, and they ended up dropping that game. They've lost 5 out of 6. They've lost 4 in a row.
and this is a situation where, because once again, I've gotten into it all day with some pro stats people, but this is the type of thing where the Blazers don't really have an excuse for not having a good defensive game plan. And if the Lakers go off on us and score a bunch of points because we let them get comfortable and we leave guys wide open who have been struggling from the field, but all of a sudden they're getting clean looks and get some confidence back. So it's a situation where we could absolutely lose this game by not having a good coaching game plan and not being prepared to hold them down while they are down. And so, like, I don't want to hear after this game, like, oh, we're missing our second and third best player just like them. So, like, of course, it was an even battle and they just happened to pull it out or whatever. And no amount of coaching would have mattered.
There will be people out there with their opinions based on, stuff other than basketball. We'll base ours off of actual basketball, the actual game plan, what happens out there on the court.
Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to. This team is prime for being able to be shut down with a good defensive game plan, no matter what your personnel is. And they don't really have the type of personnel that can exploit it. We talked about it during the 6-game winning streak where, other than LeBron, who, obviously is one of the best players of all time, but like they don't really have a lot of guys that can attack our flaws on defense. So there should be no excuse other than if LeBron goes off for like 100 points or whatever, for us like really struggling to defend a team like this.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know. You have two different trains of thoughts when it comes to thinking about the team. We critique what we see out there on the floor. And what I said last game was, oh, you can't go into Phoenix running drop scheme, and then we go into Phoenix running drop scheme, and it gets picked apart. Like, there's no excuse for that. Mm-hmm. You're missing guys the are injured. That's not an excuse, man. That's not an excuse for that. Like, because it was a game plan issue. So, the game plan should 100% be to go under screens against LeBron. 100% with how bad he's shooting. But I'm not sure if this coaching staff realizes how bad he's shooting in the month of February. You know what I mean? And of course he can turn it on, but you bet on that when he's shooting this poorly over his previous 12 games. You bet on that. Because like otherwise you're letting him...
If he hits like his first 3, then you adjust and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, then you make adjustments, It's literally that simple, Because I'd rather bet on him making threes when he's shooting 24% for the month than to allow him to drive downhill at Enes Kanter and collapse the defense and finish or just kick out the shooters. Because that sounds like the one way their offense could get going, and their offense has struggled. I'd rather bet on LeBron James making threes when he's shooting 24%. It's not that complicated. It's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm. And offensively, they're going to try to take Dame out of the game, most likely. We've seen Dame, even with that, have some really amazing performances against LA. And I don't know, we just have to find a way to attack with our other 4 guys if they're paying attention with more than one player on Dame.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see if the Blazers can turn things around. You could be looking at a 4-game losing streak. They've had a couple days off, and they'll have a couple days off after this game, which could be good for them, They then come home and have 3 very winnable games. Still hoping for 3-1 over this stretch. But, I don't know, with the way this team is playing, I wouldn't be shocked if they go 1-3, It's, this team, despite their good stretch, still didn't show us that they've overcome a lot of their flaws. This is still a very flawed team. And flawed in terms of style of play. Obviously, the roster's not perfect. It's funny how a lot of people make the point like, yeah, the roster's not perfect. It's like, no roster is perfect. Mm-hmm. The Lakers roster right now without AD is very flawed. Yep. You got LeBron and Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder and a bunch of mediocre role players. Like, almost every roster is flawed. The game of basketball goes far deeper than a potentially flawed roster on a piece of paper. But you got Los Angeles on tomorrow, then they come home March 1st. They got Charlotte March 3rd and 4th. They got Golden State and Sacramento. That's 3 winnable games at home. Honestly, they should win one of these 2 games against the California teams between Los Angeles and Golden State, and then they should beat Charlotte. They should beat Sacramento. 3-1 puts them at 21-14 going into the All-Star break. That's not terrible. It's probably not as good as they should have been. Shouldn't have lost against Washington. If they just ran some offense against Denver, they probably beat them. So there's a lot of losses this season. I want to like transition to this point. And you can take it back to the Lakers if you want to. I just want to transition to this point. Everybody's talking about how amazing the Blazers have played, but there's been so many games that they should not have lost this year already, right? January 5th against the Bulls, they blew a 20-point lead with CJ and Nurkic and lost at home. Okay? They lost by 3 to Oklahoma City at home. They lost by 3 to a Houston team that's playing terrible basketball. They lost by 11 against New York on the road. You'll drop it. New York's been playing decent basketball, so I don't really count that. But they lost by 7 at home to Washington. Right, so you look at Washington, you look at OKC, you look at Houston, you look at Chicago. These games that in the moment people say, oh, it's only one game, right? But, you take care of those 4 games, they're sitting at 22-9. They're sitting at 22-9, Eric. And that would put them tied for second with the Clippers right now, with a higher winning percentage. So Portland would be second right now if they win those games. Just saying. I don't know. And those games, even with the injuries, there's no reason to lose them. So everybody's saying the team is playing amazing and overachieving. I don't think so. They've won a bunch of games against sub-500 teams and blown some in stupid ways that they shouldn't have done. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. The flip side of that is, like Belgian Blazer pointed out, we might have lost a couple of other games if not for some really incredible shots by Dame, mostly at the end of games. I mean, we were down 5 with 12 seconds left at Chicago, almost got swept by them.
The Pelicans game.
Yeah, we were tied in both the Dallas and New Orleans games, I think, and won it at the end with Dame shots and heroics. So, yeah.
I mean, you look at the first Houston game this season.
We barely won because of Dame's heroics.
The first Houston game, CJ McCollum hit a clutch 3. Our first one of the season, he hit a clutch 3 with 5 seconds left. Like, we are barely not a below 500 team. We're 18-13. We're 5 games above 500. But there are so many games that we've won off of heroics. And there's a lot of other games that we've lost that we probably shouldn't have lost. It's crazy to look at how many close wins we have. Toronto, we beat them by 1. Okay. Houston, we beat by 2, first win of the season. Atlanta, we beat by 6. New York Knicks, the first time we blew like a 20-point lead and we're down and beat them by 3. Chicago, where Dame went crazy in the last 10 seconds, we win by 1. Dallas, we win by 3.
We do have a negative point differential, yep.
The second game against Philadelphia, we win by 4.
When Melo.
Melo goes insane and provides heroics to help us win that one. New Orleans, Dame's heroics help us win by 2. And then you look at some of our losses. We have a 32-point loss against Phoenix. We have a 28-point loss against Milwaukee. We have a 24-point loss against Indiana. We have a 21-point loss against San Antonio. A 15-point loss against Golden State. A 23-point loss against the Clippers. A 20-point loss against the Jazz. I don't know, man. I think it's more than just being 18-13. I think there's some context that needs to be added with that. We've won a lot of close games off of heroics and gotten absolutely destroyed in more than half of our losses. We've lost by like 20 or more. We have a negative point differential. I don't know. I don't know. People are lying to you if they say this team is playing amazing. That's my whole point. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. What do you think about that?
I agree with that. I mean, after, I don't know if that was last night or no, it was 2 nights ago, I think. You were getting into people on Twitter. I've been into it with people on Twitter all day today. It's
Yeah, I try to avoid it because it gets tiring.
Yeah.
But lately I've been buying in.
So I got Brandon Goldner to finally get Danny Meringue to respond to my question by him asking it instead of me. So do you know what he said? And my question, I asked him like a week ago, what a coach can do if their player gets double teamed and they have 4-3 advantage. What things can a coach do to attack that 4-3 advantage? That we're like, do you think we are attacking that great, or do you think we should come up with a way to attack that to gain an advantage, or are we just supposed to like sit back and let them double team Dame and not do anything about it? And so he responded back to Brandon Goldner saying we don't have the right personnel to attack it, and that if we had an Aaron Gordon or a Draymond Green, we would be better suited to attack it because they can make plays out of the short roll. And didn't say anything other than personnel reasons. No coaching things. Didn't say like Stotts could do a better job of this. And then later on tries to say, I'm constantly saying Stotts could do this better or that better, but like, to be honest, like the personnel isn't good enough no matter who the coach is to win games. So
hopefully Brandon sees through that, because Brandon is a pro Stotts guy, but he's like, he is respectable. Like I can talk to him about it, and I don't feel like he's just being completely disingenuous like a Danny Meringue. You know what I mean? And I feel like he trolls people, and he kind of. And some get mad. I see through it. I don't know. He trolls people. I don't really take it too seriously. Like,
he's been trying to clown Tommy all day, and so he tried to say like we have the number one pick and roll offense. Like, why would we not use pick and roll or whatever? And so Tommy actually broke it down that we're actually fourth in pick and rolls run, so we're not even like the number one pick and roll offense. We're actually first in ISOs though, and then we're actually like, I forgot what it was, if Tommy's in here. I don't think he is, but we're actually like 16th in field goal percentage, and not high, like not even in the top 10 in like points per or like efficiency off the pick and roll and stuff like that. So actually our pick and roll for how much we run it isn't that good. And of course, he didn't respond to any of those, but he only responded to the ones where he could blame personnel for what that Tommy responded to. But the thing is, I mean, so Brandon, we talked about this, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus for what else he said, but I basically said to him, because he's very vocal on Twitter on no matter what side of the argument you're on, you need to be able to say like, oh, there are a few things Stotts does well, or there's a few things that Stotts does bad if you're pro Stotts. And he's sick of people saying 100% Stotts can't do a single thing right and 100% Stotts does everything right. So when Danny answered that way, it's kind of, I was like, dude, come on, like you're begging people to be like impartial about it, but like you obviously aren't even getting an answer breaking down the X's and O's, or like he didn't even say like, oh, Stotts could do a better job, but I feel like he's kind of limited because he has personnel. It was just, nope, we don't have the personnel, nothing you can do. You know?
But here's my thing is like, a lot of teams don't have a Draymond Green or an Aaron Gordon, and they're still able to deal with the trap. That's BS. Yep. That's complete BS. You don't need an elite playmaking four in order to deal with the trap. That whole narrative is so dumb. So dumb.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Because we'll have Yusuf Nurkic, who's a good passing center, you know, but still personnel because like Al-Farouq Aminu isn't a good enough shooter. Or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's always something, right? We have to have perfect personnel in order for it to not be the personnel thing. We need a 5 that can that can pass and probably shoot threes too, right? And then we need a 4 that can be like an Aaron Gordon and play make, but also he has to shoot like 36% because Aminu shooting 35% isn't good enough, right? And then you need a small forward that can kind of do it all so that, that defenses have to pay attention to him too, and that's what you need in order to beat the trap. That's what I feel like the narrative is from a Dan Marang, and it's just BS. It's ridiculous to me.
Yep, and so he spent this whole day putting down Tommy on all this surface level BS again. Can't discuss one thing that actually relates to coaching matters or things that Stotts can do better coaching wise, and then tries to claim like, oh, I say Stotts does these things bad all the time. No, you don't, man. You're so full of crap.
Who's that? Danny?
Danny Marang. Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say, because that doesn't really sound like Brandon, because Brandon is generally respectful in all my interactions. I couldn't tell if you were talking about Brandon or Danny, but
yeah, I'm talking about Danny.
Yeah, that's
because I posted this question to Danny. Let me look up the exact question. It's hard to find sometimes. So because he had a quote talking about how that they haven't solved the problems with the traps against upper echelon defensive teams, which is obvious, right? So I asked him a question. I said, when Dame is doubled, it should create a 4-on-3 advantage. Should a coach be able to devise some sort of strategy to attack and make other teams pay for doing so? And Brandon Goldner responded with, yeah, Danny, I'd love to hear your answer on this and have a discussion about it. And of course, he never responded. So today I was like, I guess we're not going to hear anything from Danny. So he went and asked him specifically from his account.
Danny probably has you muted, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. He doesn't, he doesn't respond to any of my... I've replied to like 20 of his tweets.
And I know you're asking him just to show that he's full of crap. That's why you're asking the question, because you know he ain't gonna answer, and if he does answer, it's gonna be some crap.
But that's why he has me muted, because he has no response to that. He cannot possibly say no. There's nothing a coach can do. Like, that's stupid, and he would be clowned, and he would be exposed for like complete lack of basketball knowledge.
It's just like, how many teams have a Draymond or an Aaron Gordon, right? He could only come up with 2 names, right? So you're telling me, out of the other 28 teams that don't have a Draymond or an Aaron Gordon, they can't do anything to beat the trap either? Right? So why don't we trap more then, if teams, can't beat the trap because they don't have a Draymond or an Aaron Gordon? Why don't we trap LeBron tomorrow? Markieff Morris at the 4, like, he don't make plays for anyone. Dude probably averages an assist per game, so they don't have the personnel to deal with LeBron being trapped. But then it'd be, here's LeBron. Okay, well then other teams. Why don't we trap against the Phoenix Suns? Oh, well, Kanter can't do it. Oh, well, why don't we trap when we have Harry Giles in the game? Oh, well, no answer. Why don't we trap when we go small and have Rocco with the 5? No answer. You know what I mean? Like, it's contradictory, and it's frustrating. But that's what you get from Danny Marang, man. His expert analysis, which he ain't no expert. The dude got his job by making posts on a forum that somebody liked the writing of, and then he started writing for Blazers Edge, and then, NBC Sports Northwest was silly and hired him to be the post-game guy. I'm fine with their stuff as like a sideshow. As the post-game show, it is just not a good decision in my opinion, but whatever. I'm not the expert, that's just my honest opinion, and I'm sure if Dan Marang saw that, he'd be ranting in my DMs within 5 minutes, but like he normally does. But yeah, I don't know. It's just that's how the media breaks things down, because you're not going to get a better explanation from Chad Doing. You're going to get the same stuff from Chad Doing. You're going to get the same stuff from Jason Peterson. You're going to get the same stuff from anyone. Yeah. So.
And, just look for that. It's always an excuse. But my thing is, okay, so anyone who has watched Damian Lillard run a pick and roll in the playoffs knows that there are teams that have ways to stop our pick and roll offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
By trapping Dame or by what did we hear in the playoffs last year? Coach Stotts, instead of saying, you know what, the pick and roll's not working, or like maybe we should come up with a different way to attack the traps for Dame, it was, Yusuf Nurkic is not doing a good job to adapting to playoff basketball when he gets the ball in the pick and roll. That was the problem, right? It's that Dirk isn't doing.
It was
the right
that,
thing.
and it was also Al-Farouq Aminu isn't a good enough 3-point shooter, even though he shot over 43% from 3 that series.
Yeah, and so like the thing is, why are we running pick and roll right into the trap? If we know they're going to trap, why do we continue to run pick and roll? Why is his answer to, well, we're a pick and roll team. We're one of the best pick and roll teams in the league. Got to keep running pick and roll. That makes no sense. Like you're saying, you can't come up with a better way to get Dame. That's what Golden State does with Curry. They come up with ways so he can't be trapped because they don't know if he's going to be bringing the ball up or if he's going to be playing off ball, or once he gives up the ball, what he's going to do after that. And that's the problem with the Blazers. They don't have any sort of plan of attack once once Dame is taken out of a game or trapped. And it's been 4 years now since they've had a chance to look at that and possibly do that. And to say like, well, you can't name a single coach that would make this team a championship team, because that's always the go-to, like crap like that. They can't.
It's stuff that you
question.
can't. It's just stuff that's completely subjective, right, that you can't like argue with anything definitive or any like. Well, I think we could do this and this and this better. Oh no, well, it's personnel, so there's no coach that could do any better. Like you can't. There's no way to like effectively argue that, even though it's a bad point, and that's a lot of the arguments. It's arguments that shut down any sort of conversation. It's just like there's nothing behind it other than his feelings about the personnel always being inadequate, which is just always overblown.
And that's what I told, because the way he was posted today, I like quote tweeted several things to Brandon. I was like, look, he has no interest in discussing any of these things we're trying to talk about. He just changes it to, well, there's not a coach that could do any better, or no one could do the same thing Stotts has done with all these injuries, or name one coach that could take this roster and make it a championship level team because they don't have the process. That's not what we're saying. But there's a difference between being better suited to get further in the playoffs or possibly maybe extend this team to that level versus the current way where we're not going anywhere unless we somehow get Dame to score like 50 points every game, or CJ to have like a monster game despite all the defensive attention.
Or Melo to morph back into Denver
Right.
Nuggets Melo and carry us for a quarter and a half. Yeah.
And like we've seen already this season, it's happened several times. It can happen and we can win a playoff series, but there's no way we're going to beat as many good teams as there are in the West. There's no way we're going to continue to win playoff series consistently until we figure out a way to have a game plan that's better than, let's just hope our guys go crazy again against like getting really bad shots and make them every time. And see, it just drives me crazy because you can't even have a discussion. So like Tommy brings up actually we're not that good in pick and roll, and I had it here. He says we're actually fourth in pick and roll possessions and 22nd in field goal percentage out of those possessions. So we're not even like top 15.
We're below average
in like shooting out of pick and rolls. We're 15th in scoring frequency. So we run it the fourth most, but we're only 15th in the amount of times we score out of it. And then ISOs, we're first in ISO possessions. We're sixth in points per possession out of ISO possessions, 19th in field goal percentage, 10th in scoring frequency in those. So we run the most amount, but we're 19th in the amount of shots we make out of there, basically. So it's so dumb. Like how can you not see that this offense is? We only score a lot of points because we run it so much, and it's and against good teams that figure it out, we still don't have a way to counter if ISO and pick and roll aren't working. Because we're first and fourth in those. What do you think we are in possessions where it's like where we run a play or a screen off ball and all that stuff? I think we're 30th or close to 30th on all those other categories.
Yep. I mean, you look at the difference in our offense between facing like good teams and teams that aren't good, and it's drastic, right? Thing is, we've had an easy schedule, so we've faced a lot more of those bad teams in general. We've had, the third easiest schedule so far this season. So, yeah, we have a good offensive ranking, okay? But part of that is, well, you can get away with it with superior offensive talent against bad teams, which is that's normally what we have against bad teams, is far superior offensive talent. And then against good teams, what happens? Oh, we score 100 points against the Suns, 106 against the Nuggets, 106 against the Bucks. San Antonio, we only score 104 against. Indiana, we had CJ this game and had a little bit of Nurkic. We scored 87. It's against Utah, start of the season, we score 100. Against the Clippers, fourth game of the season, we score 105. That's what happens against good teams. The problem is, okay, you could maybe win a couple of those games if you were a good defensive team. The problem is we're not a good defensive team, right? So everybody says, oh, the defense is the problem. Like, yeah, the defense is worse, but we need to do all we can offensively to give us at least a chance to win games, okay? Because this team is not going to win a grinded-out game against a good team. I'll be shocked if we have one game this year where we beat a team like a Clippers team or a Jazz team or a Bucks team or a Suns team where we don't score at least 115 points. You know what I mean? Like Philadelphia, the second game, we scored 118. Philadelphia, the first game, we scored 121. I'm looking at our above 500 wins.
I think the Lakers...
The Lakers game is the only game that's close. We score 115, only give up 107. That's the only game that could qualify as that, right? And we didn't win that way last year. So... It comes down to, us having to outscore teams because we're not going to win a grinded out game, but our offense doesn't work against good teams. That's why we are 4-8 against teams that are above 500.
And so I was interested in this whole assist correlation thing because I'm so sick of people saying, oh, assists don't correlate. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like Blazers can be the worst assist team of all time, and they're still fine because it doesn't mean crap, when it comes to winning correlation, So since the 2012 finals, there has not been a single finals team that ranked lower than 19th in assists. So no bottom 10 team has made the finals since 2012. And obviously the game has changed a lot since then. We've had the Warriors come up and prove that moving the ball and running sets and sharing the ball work very well. And the thing is, if you go back to the 2012 finals, the team that was really bad at assists was actually both teams were bad in assists that year. It was Miami and Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, James Harden. That team was stacked with players that were good scorers or whatever, and a good big to help them or whatever. And then the Heat obviously had Wade and Bosh and LeBron and all that in their second year together. So you're talking about elite offensive teams with some of the best ISO scorers of all time on their team. And we have a Melo and a CJ who are really good. Melo was incredible throughout his career at ISO scoring, maybe not as good anymore. CJ is a really good ISO scorer, but they're not to the level of a Kevin Durant even Russell Westbrook was a lot more efficient back then, at least shooting the ball and stuff like that. So, since that point, you cannot be this bad at sharing the ball and
with this personnel that we have. The only way you get away with it is if you have a LeBron and KD. But since 2012, how many finals is that, Eric? That's 8 NBA Finals
Yep.
in a row where you haven't had a team below 19th.
And
so we don't have this is the point I'd make. We don't have the personnel to ISO and have run such a stagnant offense. We don't have the personnel to get away with that. Right? People say, "Oh, they don't have the personnel to do more than that." Bruh, we run the most stagnant ISO heavy offense in the league. The stats back that up. Bro, nothing about that is personnel based. You look, there's so many other teams out there. You look at the Magic. The Magic can move the ball better than us because they have better personnel to do so. The Knicks can move the ball better than us because they have better personnel to do so. Throw in like 15 different teams where I don't think you can make any case for them having better personnel to move the ball. You know, there's no reason we should be this stagnant and this bad in terms of moving the ball. We shouldn't be this ISO heavy. But we are, and it doesn't work against good teams. It's been proven. You know, you can get away with it in the regular season. And the people that make the argument that assists don't correlate with winning is normally basing it off a statistical analysis of like win-loss record versus the regular season, right? But when it comes down to the playoffs, you can't win playing that style of ball unless you have a LeBron or a KD, you know, a LeBron and a Wade, or a KD and a Harden and a Westbrook. That's the only way you can get away with it, and we've seen that. It doesn't compete at the highest level. Milwaukee got too stagnant in the playoffs last year, loses in 5 to the Miami Heat, an inferior talented team. Milwaukee had more talent, but Miami moved the ball better. Milwaukee stagnated, knocked them out of the playoffs. What happened when the Clippers went up 3-1? Their offense became insanely stagnant and ISO heavy, and they blew a 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets, who moved the ball better. Like that, it doesn't work at the highest levels of basketball. Mm-hmm. I want to compete, so that's why I have a problem with it. Some people are happy with just, let's have a good regular season record and see what they can do in the playoffs. Some people are happy with that. I want to contend, and they're not going to contend running an offense like this.
And so here's the thing. For the record, Tori and I have not once said that the Blazers need to be the best team at assist in the league. We've never.
They just need to not be the worst.
We just need to be somewhere like middle of the pack, 10th to 20th, and we would be so much better equipped to handle the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, Miami goes on a run last year. They were 5th in assists last year. Don't think for a second that they didn't work a good offensive team and have a good run because they shared the ball. They had extreme ways to got shooters open and to pass out of isolation situations and stuff like that. And their whole offense evolves around that. And they haven't done as good a job of it this year, and they're struggling. Big surprise, And so they just need to be better. They can't average less than 20 assists per game. Like that, they do not have good enough players to overcome that in the playoffs with this kind of ball. Yeah.
And here's the thing I'll say about assists, right? Assists are a reflection of the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't move the ball. The problem is that we attack against a set defense one-on-one for a for a high amount of our offensive possessions, or we run pick and roll against a set defense that is ready to defend it because, they're not having to scramble. They're completely set. And we're relying on guys driving from the perimeter against set defenses to try and make things happen. And if they don't, our offense is screwed. Okay? And then the lack of assists are a reflection of the problem. So I had somebody call me out on Twitter like, well, you're just using assists, but it's deeper than that. It's like, yeah, it's deeper than that, but it's easy to look at the assists and see that there's a problem because it's a reflection of the problem. And the problem is we don't have even our sets, bro. Even our sets are just guys running around the perimeter, getting screens around the perimeter, and then catching the ball and then going 1-on-1. Or catching the ball and then going into a pick and roll. Or we'll run direct handoffs to Dame, which function exactly like a pick and roll. You know what I mean? Like, it all functions the same way, and it all ends in a guy catching the ball on the perimeter and then having to create something. Even our sets result in that. And then a lot of the times we don't even run sets, and we just isolate or pick and roll. So it's all based on guys creating something out of nothing. Which is why I don't think Stotts is a good offensive coach, and it's bad offense.
Yeah, when you combine the lack of ball movement with the stagnation of the off-ball players, that's like just a recipe for disaster in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Because and people will say, let me just touch on it. People say, oh, well, they rank well in the regular season. We're talking, how does it translate to the playoffs? You can get away with it to a certain extent during the regular season and have a good offense if you have talent. Doesn't work in the playoffs. That's something to remember about the point we're making.
And we, for the record, I mean, we were sitting here saying during the 6-game winning streak, it's still not going to help us long term the way we're playing. We're winning these games, but once we start playing better teams, what's going to happen, right? And we're seeing that play out right now. And then everyone's like, oh, well, we're still 18-13 with all our injuries, so we're still really good, you know? But, like, we're not addressing the problems that we're going to have even when we get a CJ McCollum and a Yusuf Nurkic back into the fold. They're still going to have the same problems in the playoffs that have plagued them for years because they aren't changing anything they do. And I'm so sick of it. Like, anytime you bring up, well, like, they need to have a better plan on offense, it's like, well, they don't have the personnel. They need to do something different on defense. Well, they don't have the personnel. It's so lazy to just say that every freaking argument that happens. It's like,
it's the laziest thing you can do.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so he's just supposed to continue running drop scheme because he doesn't have the personnel, even though drop scheme's not working. And then, like, so you'd be like, what? Well, why don't they just try something different? Like, what could it hurt? And they're like, well, do you want to lose by, like, 40 instead of 20? And it's, like, so stupid. It's like, okay. Like,
I actually who says we're going to lose by 40, you know? But yeah, that's the point. It's like, we're still a loss. At least we can see maybe it might be better. I mean, the drop scheme is so bad in certain situations that I would be shocked if something was worse. And if something's a little bit worse, I don't care if we lose by 30 or 40. We're still losing by, we're still getting blown out. What's the difference? Like, who cares? Let's see that it doesn't work. Because we haven't even seen for ourselves that it doesn't work. We haven't seen that.
I want to say something about that too, but first, so Terry Lynn says Stotts actually utilizes his players to their strengths. Dame and CJ work best in ISO pick and roll heavy offense. Okay, Tyler K actually has a great answer for that. He says Dame and CJ could work in non-ISO PNR. Their skills transfer well to other things. Shooting and finishing do not need to come from ISO. And thank you, Tyler. That is the correct answer. That's what I don't get is, like, so you're saying Dame has to take a 27-foot three-pointer coming off a screen while being trapped and make that. And that's great coaching because Stotts recognizes that Dame is good in the pick and roll versus maybe him coming off a screen and being wide open and hitting a wide open three from the actual three-point line. So you don't think Dame could do that? Are you saying, like, Dame's not skilled enough to hit a wide open three? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
If Dame catches the ball at the 3-point line, like, he should definitely just wait for the defense to come to him. Take, like, 5 dribbles backwards so he's at 28 feet, and then shoot a contested three because he's better at those.
Right.
And that's basically Stotts is like, the defense, that defensive Stotts is saying that Dame should do that. Like, I would rather get Dame wide open threes. And here's the thing. Ball movement will help him attack and drive the lane a lot easier.
Right.
Because right now he's doing it against a set defender. How many times have we seen him lately try and drive against a defender who's right in front of him and then bang knee on knee? Because the defender is literally right there to begin with. I would rather move the ball and get the defense moving so that when Dame's catching the ball, he either has an open 3-point shot or he has somebody running at him, which is a lot easier to drive against because you use their momentum against them. And, you know, they might be running from the side, leaving a lane. You know, if they're running from your left, leaves a lane to the right to drive past them and they have momentum towards you. It's much easier to drive and create off of that. And then guess what? You collapse the defense a lot, you kick out. You have, you know, an open Melo 3 instead of a contested Melo 18-footer without a pass in the possession. How is that worse? How is that not better? And it's not that hard to do, but we don't do it. It's ridiculous.
And like you said, I mean, you've said this like 100 times, right? Run a set. If it doesn't work, then let your ISO players ISO. Run a pick and roll then at the end of the, like, with 10 seconds left on the shot clock.
You can still do all the same stuff if you don't get something better.
You still get the same exact shots you get now. You just have a chance first to get a easier shot, and then if it doesn't work out, fine. And I could
Exactly.
totally live with that if they tried something different every single possession, it never worked, and they had to take a tough shot at the end of the shot clock, then fine. I would gladly say that Stotts is trying everything possible to do this, but I don't ever see that happen. And when we do run it with success, we don't see it again for several games, and we only see it once or twice a game when it does happen. It's just so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, let me respond to this comment. Satvik says, do you think some of the issues with creating... Okay, so do you think? I thought he was making this as a point, but he's asking as a question, which is good, because you'll see by the answer to this. He says, do you think some of the issues with creating driving lanes is because Cantor can't space the floor? You don't need 5 3-point shooters in order to create driving lanes for moving the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cantor on the opposite block, if you're moving the ball, he still has to be guarded.
Yeah.
So if you're moving the ball and you're catching the ball on the perimeter and you're having somebody close out, maybe from the side because their help responsibility was to play off of you 2 passes away and the ball gets swung to you and they're running back to you on your left, and you drive right and Cantor's on the opposite block, his defender can't leave him. If his defender leaves him, you still have the driving lane past your initial defender, and if that guy comes up, you lob it over the top or drop it off. Cantor has a wide open dunk.
Like
or if that guy stays home, or if that guy stays home, you get to the backboard, lay it in. You know? So it's not anything to do with Cantor not being able to shoot. You don't need to run 5 out to create driving lanes off of ball movement. There's a lot of teams with centers that don't shoot threes that create driving lanes off of ball movement.
And let me ask you a question, Tori.
Yeah.
Is Enes Kanter and Yusuf Nurkic, are they good screen setters?
Yeah, I would say so.
So why does Kanter and Nurkic have to set screens on ball? Why can they not get players open off ball?
Mm-hmm.
And you have I'd say they're probably 2 of the better screeners in the entire NBA. Not counting like what happens afterwards, just like actual screens. Why not utilize those guys to screen guys off ball to get open? I don't understand why it always has to be in the pick and roll, and then you blame Kanter for not making it plays or getting like not being a good passer on the short roll or whatever. Like it just you can use them to screen other guys. It doesn't make sense that it always has to be pick and roll, and that we're so reliant on that to work every time, even when it's not working in games.
Yeah, well, Terry Lynn says, have you ever considered that players can't execute different schemes properly?
Oh,
Bro, we've had so many different iterations of rosters, like different personnel for the past 5 years, and this has always been a problem. We've always been pretty much worst in the league with different rosters. If you're telling me that no matter what player Stotts gets, they can't execute offense well enough to be anything but the worst in the league when it comes to ball movement and stagnation, then I think that's a Stotts problem. That's not a personnel problem. Like, there is nothing to suggest whatsoever that every player we ever bring in here is just incapable of ever moving the ball and is only capable of isolating just because, you know, and it's not a Stotts problem. Like, that logic doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't even know how to attack that logic because it doesn't make any sense. Like, we've had... I don't even know. Is there a way to even, like... I don't know how to... I don't know if I even did a good job responding to that, Eric. What do you think? Like, it's common sense to me.
If you're telling me that an NBA player, if you said, okay, Kanter is going to set a screen for you, you curl around it and shoot the ball when you're wide open. Like, I don't know. Like, they can't figure that out. Like, I don't know.
Apparently not, man. Apparently they've
sense.
gotten to the NBA without being able to execute a pin down. Bruh. Oh, come on, man. Hey, like...
It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. Like,
they can't run in a curving motion, and the other guy can't set a screen. They're just incapable of that. Yeah. Come on. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like, so in like elementary school, middle school, high school, every team has a play where you basically have, your point guard bring it up. You have the wing, like elbow line extended, and you have your other wing in the corner. And all he does is run the baseline, and the 2 bigs set a pick for him at each of the blocks, and he runs to the other 3-point line, and you pass it to him, and he's open. And it's like so basic. And the thing is, if you set screens properly, that guy's going to be open. If they switch, then you have a small guy on one of your bigs. If they like double team him, then someone's wide open. And like, there's just so many things. And that's like just one example of the most basic play in basketball that you can run. It doesn't take a complex scheme to figure things out or do things. And we saw like Phoenix run. I mean, they must have ran at least 10 to 15 different ways off ball to screen for Booker to get him open, and we had no way of stopping any of them. And it usually led to a wide open shot or a drive and a lob to Ayton every time they tried a different way of doing it. And this can happen with any team. Like, anyone who tells you, oh, the players are too lost or too dumb to like figure it out, like that's not true, man. It's not true. Like, and basketball players know what to do. We talked about this before, how Tori and I could be dropped in a gym right now and a coach could tell us to run a play a certain way and we'd be able to figure it out and run it. Like, we don't have the athleticism to run it at an NBA level, but like, we know how to run that and what that means and all that kind of stuff. There's no way these NBA players don't know that.
Yeah, bro. Put me in an open run with just a random guy on the sideline coaching and have him yell out horns, and I will run it from the point guard spot, I will run it from the power forward spot, I will run it from the wing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, these guys know how to execute plays. A lot of plays are you know, there are some plays that a lot of offenses use, like horns is kind of the most basic staple set. There's a lot of wrinkles off of it and whatnot, but like, bruh, if there's not, it's like, people will try and turn anything into a personnel issue. It's like, we can have the most stagnant offense, and it's like, well, maybe players just can't execute any plays, so it's not Stotts' fault that those players just can't execute any plays, so they have to be stagnant. You know what I mean? Like, it's, people will spin anything into a personnel issue, and I don't know why there's so many people like that, but people would much rather just hate on the players and make up ridiculous criticism of the players in order to not criticize Stotts than to just be truly objective. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's frustrating, man. But
I started a list the other day of contradictions in Stotts' philosophies. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, one of my kids jumped on my computer and deleted it before I had a chance to save it. But I think I remember most of it. So one is, you know, traps work against Dame, but we rarely trap, right? Yep. Which doesn't make sense. The other one is, we hear Stotts talk about, well, they move the ball really well, and it's hard to stop offenses that move the ball well. And do we factor that into our philosophies, you know? And then, this is one that I've always been funny of, and it's too bad Portlandia isn't in here. But Stotts is on record of saying that he likes to limit turnovers, right? Like, that's really important to not turn the ball over a lot, right? But our defense is designed to not create turnovers, and we don't do anything aggressive-wise to create turnovers. That makes no sense to me.
Our last game, there was a record, an NBA record.
One turnover, yeah.
One turnover for the Denver Nuggets against us.
That's the NBA record. Like, and it's like, okay, so you know on offense you don't want to turn the ball over, but your defense sucks, and you don't try to do anything to pressure the ball or be aggressive or anything like that. And that's the problem with if you have the worst personnel in the league. Let's just say Stotts has the worst personnel, which I will vehemently disagree with. But let's just say, for the argument of this conversation, that Stotts has the worst personnel in the league. That is when you want to be as aggressive as possible, because if you can't stop anyone at least 1 out of every 10 times, maybe you could force a steal or something and get out on a fast break and get an easy lane or something. It just doesn't make any sense why we would not try to pressure the ball more and just sag back. And basically we have the most or the least amount of defensive pressure with our schemes, and that makes no sense if the whole point on offense is to not create turnovers and get as many shots up on the rim as possible, like our offensive philosophy is.
Here's another one contradiction is our defensive scheme is designed to give up mid-range shots, but then offensively we shoot a ton of them.
Yep, and that was that was the other one. Thank you for reminding me. Until this year, so this year, like to Stott's credit, he has gone away from wanting to take many mid-range shots. He wants to shoot as many threes as possible, whether that's good or bad. But in the past, ever since Stotts has been here, because he's had Aldridge too, we had a player who was amongst the league leaders in mid-range shots, yet our entire defensive philosophy was to not give up threes and not give up shots in the paint to make teams take a lot of long two-pointers, and we led the league in several years taking the most amount of two-point shots. And then on top of that, we don't get to the free throw line a lot either. So, like, it's not like we're drawing fouls or being aggressive on offense to get to the line. Oh, thanks, sweetie. So yeah, it's just... Okay, thank you. Love you. So... when you factor all these things in, this is why it drives me crazy when someone's like, well, coaching doesn't matter. And I've seen numerous arguments, both with myself and you, Tori, where you argue with someone for like an hour or two on Twitter, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, well, coaching isn't even important anyway. It's like, well, why are you arguing about it then? Why have you spent the last 2 hours saying that, like, coaching doesn't, like Stotts can't do anything if you don't even think like coaching matters at all? Why are you apologizing for that? Like, I don't understand.
Yep. It drives me crazy. Somebody said, didn't Dan Marang say Stotts had a deep playbook last offseason? It's like, at least you're not hearing that right now. At least it's not, well, Stotts has a lot of, sets and anything.
No,
like,
we did.
Have you heard that recently?
Not sets, but he has to simplify his game plans because he does not have the personnel, like someone in here said earlier. I saw that a lot today.
So are you calling these guys a bunch of idiots or what?
Basically, yep.
Our players are a bunch of idiots. They can't have anything but a simplified playbook.
So
screw anybody who says that. Screw like anybody who says that crap. That is, who said that?
Oh, that's just all the Stotts supporters. Yeah, there's I can't remember exactly who, but
oh my god, man! See, like I said, it will become a personnel. People will
it's totally personnel.
Spin it to be the personnel no matter what, even if it's something like we have a bunch of idiots, so Stotts has to simplify his playbook. Even though when we had a completely different roster a couple years ago, it was pretty much the same playbook. Did we have a bunch of idiots then too? Why is every basketball player that we bring into Portland automatically an idiot? What? It's ridiculous, bro. And I hate that people make it out to be like that, bro. People will spin it.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with our defense. You argue with people, and they say we don't have the personnel, and you mention so. Giles, like, we can't trap the pick and roll with Giles because they say Cantor's too slow. And I was like, well, how do you explain when Giles is in? Well, Giles is stupid and he gets lost on defense. Like, well, that's what the coach is supposed to do, is to teach him the proper technique, right? Like, that's the whole point of coaching, is to make sure he's not lost, first of all.
And what are people basing he's stupid on?
I don't know, dude. Like, I mean, yeah, he does get lost sometimes, but that's because we're using him in a way that's not suited to his strengths, right? And that's the problem. We do that with guys like Giles. We don't, like, he would be perfect trapping. He's like one of the most athletic bigs, like, possible. And on offense too, he's one of the more creative ball handlers and passers on offense. Do we utilize either of those things to our strengths? No, we put him in the same position that we would Cantor or whatever, and it's not the right decision. But then
it's either they don't have, they're not quick enough to trap, or they're too stupid to trap.
Yeah.
That's what it is, bro. We could have Draymond and we could drop him and people would just be like, well, Draymond's just a dumbass, man. He's just what he's supposed to do. Like, bruh, it's not hard for Harry Giles. Harry Giles is not too dumb to see his man setting a screen on the ball and run forward. And trap. Like, come on, man.
But then, so then you're like, okay, devil's advocate, let's say, okay, you're right. Cantor can't trap, and Giles gets lost too often, and he just can't figure out how to do it properly, and so you can't trap with him. Okay, so you take those two out of the equation. Okay, so why, when we're running Robert Covington at center, do we not trap then? Why are we still dropping Covington? Why do we not play aggressive with Covington? Oh, well, we'd get killed inside if we did that with like, it's just like there's an excuse for everything. It's like so dumb. Like, we literally have been playing the last few games without Giles as our backup center. We have Robert Covington at center where we could literally trap any pick. We could switch any pick because we have like four guys at all times that are capable of switching or doing different things that we're normally used to, and we don't do any of those things, even when these guys who they're saying are personnel related reasons we can't do those aren't in the game. It's so stupid.
Well, it's crazy how the argument that last argument for Rocco not trapping is just mind-boggling to me. So trapping the ball out on the perimeter and potentially containing it out there would kill us inside. So instead, we should drop Robert Covington and let them drive to the inside.
Yeah. But, like, the other thing, too, is, okay, that's a different problem, right? So if you want to talk about that problem, we can talk about that, too. We're not really good at defending this year. Last year, we actually were decent at defending the pace. But, like, I just don't get it. It's like everything is just to excuse thoughts away for not coaching and like not actually doing anything about his defense. And at the end of the day, it always comes back down to, okay, so even if you think every other way wouldn't work, why would you not try different things to see if something is working when the wrong thing is going? And I had someone tell me like, oh, if you had a car, you're basically gonna say you're gonna put syrup in it to make it run. And I was like, no, it's like, my car's running fine. Why would I change it to syrup? But my car's not running. I'm not gonna like continue to put syrup in it when it's not running. You know what I mean? That makes no sense. Like,
bro, it's so funny. Oh my goodness. We will continue to destroy all Stotts arguments. All the pro Stotts arguments, we will continue to pick them apart.
The most frustrating part, though, is like they'll argue with you for this, like I said, for hours, and then all of a sudden, when you're like, okay, so what specifically can't Robert Covington do if he's the center to attack the pick and roll? And they're like, well, coaching doesn't matter. Like, and then they change it to that. You know, it's like it's
once
so
they don't have a point,
yeah.
It's like, oh, this conversation's irrelevant, man. So yeah. It's ridiculous. So, and the thing is, every media member is like that. Every single one. Is there one who's not like that? Maybe Dwight Jaynes, Jason Quick. Like they're the only two that I wouldn't say are like automatically like that.
Yeah, and I think they don't pretend to know the X's and O's or like the salary cap or whatever. That much. Speaking of that, I had a dub against Bobby Marks today, but we'll talk about that later.
You can tweet that out or tell me about it later. We're running deep on time, but finish your thought.
I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, Stevie, other players. Yeah, so there's like quick knows not to get in a discussion about like X's and O's with someone, right? Because he doesn't necessarily, like, he's more like story oriented, which is totally fine, and he stays in his lane for the most part. And like when he has an article about the defense or something, he tries to bring in someone who knows better about it than him. Like he had one with Seth Partnow a week or so ago about our defense improving at the time. And ever since then, our defense, for the record, is actually worse now than it was with CJ in the lineup. So, yeah, part of that's missing Nurk as well. But all those people who were saying Nurk was playing like crap this year too, our defense is worse without Nurk and CJ than it was prior to that this season. And yeah, they had to gel and all this stuff, and it's so dumb.
Yeah, had to gel, man. But now, now it's just personnel, and then when those guys get back, well, they just need time to return from their injury. It'll always be something with these guys. Always, 100%, because they're far too biased for Terry Stotts to think otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
They're just dripping with bias.
And just
or they don't know how to look at the game of basketball and analyze it.
One last point I want to just hammer home with the defense. So if you are bad at defense, the worst possible thing you can do is let the defense know every time how you're going to defend their actions. And this has been my problem all along with Terry Stotts, is he tries it for a play or whatever, and if it doesn't work, he just abandons it, right? And we've seen that multiple times. And even this season, when he comes into the season saying, I know these things have to be different, he tried it for like a couple games and then abandoned it with the first sign it didn't work, right? So, but the problem is, even if the new defense would have worked out perfectly, that's still not good enough when it comes down to the playoffs. That split second when a ball handler comes off a screen and is wide open and knows exactly where the big is going to be when he comes off that screen, and he knows before he even comes off that screen where he's going to get his shot, that second versus not knowing exactly what we're going to do. And that's why you have to be able to run different coverages. And even if you have a big like Cantor who can't trap or can't drop or can't do anything, then mix it up. Have him do every single time. Like, I don't know if it's like a 1-2-3 thing, but like every other play do this, every other play do that is still better than just doing the same thing every time. And then the defense would have to figure out where he's going to be, if he's going to trap or if he's going to do that. And eventually, yes, if you run it like 10 times, it might not work all those 10 times, but throughout the course of a game, it's better than towards the end of the game, them knowing exactly what's going to happen on those picks. And they still have to try and figure it out when they come across.
Yep. So, anyway, we're gonna wrap up this stream. I might post like the latter part as a video and just title it "Destroying Every Pro Stotts Argument" for 50 minutes or whatever over on the main channel. I don't know, because bro, like I don't know. We've touched on so many Pro Stotts arguments, and I feel like we've destroyed them all. I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, I know y'all, the people that actually truly listen to us see it too. There's been a lot of people who have come to us and told us that we've changed their minds. Stevie Cousins is one of them. I don't know if I butchered his last name, but a guy like I was beefing with heavily over some stupid petty stuff, and we talked and made up, and he we used to beef over. He was like a Pro Stotts guy. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I started trying to learn more X's and O's and actually listening to what you guys were saying, and now I see everything you guys are saying, and I agree with it. So shout out to him, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, people don't necessarily have to view basketball the same way as us, to be cool with us. Like, I'm cool with Goldner now, and me and Goldner used to beef, and now it's like we're very respectful of each other. And Stephen Vaughn, who works with Chad Doing, but handles things the exact opposite. He's a Pro Stotts guy and handles things the exact opposite as Chad. He's very respectful and, a guy that I genuinely like. So it's not like, if you like Stotts, I hate you. It's nothing like that at all. It's just, I just want people to be truly objective. You know what I mean? And so, in all the arguments that we laid out here in this stream are arguments that aren't being truly objective. They're biased arguments to try and spin things a certain way that fits the narrative that people want, which is that they want to think Stotts is a good coach. They want to believe that. So, if they hear some criticism about Stotts not doing something, they'll automatically say, oh, well, the players are just incapable, they're too stupid to do it, or they're too slow, or this or that. That's how it goes with a lot of people. So,
I want that basketball game to happen.
Yeah, they got a pro though. That'll be fun. Yeah. We got Jared Houston though. So if we have a Pro Stotts versus Fire Stotts basketball game, it'll actually potentially look, at least height wise, like an NBA game. Maybe in shape wise, probably not. But you'll have 2 7-footers or two 6'10" guys in there on each side. So. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be a fun matchup, Eric. You gotta work on your 3-point shot because you ain't gonna be playing center.
Bro, I got it. I got you.
But I got point at 6'4", man. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll get runs when the pandemic dies down. Hopefully this summer we will have some pickup runs. We'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah. So that wraps up the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll have the post-game show tomorrow. Hopefully we see you there. Hopefully we're talking about a Blazers win over the Lakers. I don't care how it gets done. Beating the Lakers is always extra sweet, no matter how it happens. So hopefully we can take care of business and beat the Lakers tomorrow. Hopefully we see better defense, better ball movement. Just the basic stuff that we're asking for right now. So anyway, anything else, Eric?
No, thank you all for watching. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Even if you disagree with us, we appreciate you at least listening to what we have to say.
I don't think we have one person in here right now who disagrees with us. So shout out to that anti-stunts army. we have assembled you guys very methodically, and now we're waging war. So anyway, thank you for being on the good side, on the right side. That rhymes with the white side. That's not the right side. But anyway, thank you guys for supporting us. We greatly appreciate it.
It's a cold world. Bundle up.
There you go. So anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of your Thursday night. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, peace out. Go